What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Foots here, and I got Joe Rodriguez. Honestly, one of my favorite people to work with. It's so crazy because Joe and I. Let me switch this mic quick. Cool. Joe and I have been working together for years now, right? 2016, things kind of came to fruition from my channel um, for draft coverage, and then I picked up on Joe's channel, and we've literally been locked in ever since. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
We're good. We're good. We're locked in, ready to rock and roll, baby.
Joe, what is new with you?
Uh, Only thing new is this. You know, watching what the Cowboys are doing. Nothing really
Yeah,
new. I'm just sitting back watching everything like the rest of us. So exciting times as usual off season.
yeah.
But yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, me and Joe have been again, we've worked together for years now, kind of covering the draft. But I think this year was interesting, Joe, because while free agency isn't over, obviously we know some of the headlining moves. It's been cool to see Dallas kind of take a new approach. So when we started working, Joe, that's when Will McClay was putting his stamp on the draft, and they on pro personnel, and they wanted to be all draft, and that was good for us because that's how we kind of worked anyway, right? But now, hey, they've kind of, I wouldn't say shifted, but they've definitely done things a little different. And before we recap every move that's happened in this offseason, Joe, are you surprised by just how Dallas has moved?
Yeah, I'm surprised by the trades. Pretty interesting. So I think maybe McCarthy. Maybe there's a little bit of influence here on hey, maybe let's try something a little bit different. Shit that we all been doing here haven't really been working. We
Yeah,
need something to get us over the hump.
yeah.
So
And before we go through every move, Joe, I want to start this conversation by saying this. Your football team wasn't bad last year. So to think that what you were doing wasn't working, or you had a bad roster or you had a bad team, you didn't. It came down to, let's be honest, a few plays in a championship game. The defense just played lights out. Just for everybody to just kind of let recapping that part of things. The defense played lights out. The offense needed to be cleaned up a little bit. Quarterback play, they need to be better. But I also think that weapons, you could kind of say maybe weapons could have been better. Uh yes, but I still believe that Dallas had enough to win. But I get it. Dallas is on steroids now, and that's cool. I'll say this: with all of these moves being made, um, there will be no excuses. I think that the Cowboys have made that clear. There will be absolutely no excuses. Okay, let's go through all the moves, Joe, and I'll just kind of get your big picture thought, and then we'll transition to the draft. All right, here we go. Tony Pollard gets the franchise tag. Uh, Dallas signs Donovan Wilson, 3 years, $24 million. That's a big one, Joe. Cornerback Stephon Gilmore, Joe, still play. 5-time Pro Bowler, is a Dallas Cowboy. Those are the names, and that's to me Dallas shopping at the thrift store, but finding that jacket that still fits, may have a stain on it, but it still looks good on you, right?
yeah,
You like that one, Joe? Leighton
yeah,
Vander Esch comes back for 2 years, 11 million. CJ Godwin, CJ Goodwin, big signing, special teams ace. Cooper Rush, 2 years, 6 million. I thought that he would sign somewhere else. Thank you, April Showers, for that super chat. Appreciate you so much. You've been locked in with us for years. April Showers. Brandon Cooks via trade. Joe, again, not giving Dak any excuses. Chuma Idoga, Joe, you had some good thoughts about him. I've been following all your work on him. And then Ronald Jones. Obviously, the Cowboys lose. Um, Connor Williams. I mean, they lost Connor Williams last year. Connor McGovern. They lose Dalton Schultz. Joe, big picture. Out of all of these names, who was the big signing for you? Let's talk that we brought back, and then we'll talk somebody that wasn't on our team last year. Give me your two big signings.
The big sign, as far as what I didn't think was going to happen was Donovan Wilson. I thought he was going to be priced out of our range, and I think the rest of the league kind of sleeping on him. Donovan
Yeah,
Wilson he can be a game changer. There was a couple games where he took over. He put his thumbprint. He was the MVP of the game. Um, solid, solid there.
yeah,
For many years, safety was the weakest link in the secondary. Now they're the strongest point of the secondary right now is the safety position. So I'm glad that he's back, man. To be honest, I think that was a big move for us.
extremely underrated signing, Joe. I'll never forget. April, you've been with us for day one. From day one, you remember us covering guys like Taylor Rapp, Juan Thornhill. I think that, dare I say, Dallas's development plan at the safety position mixed with free agency has really worked, Joe.
Hmm.
Covering Donovan Wilson coming out, Texas A&M. You kind of like, okay, can't body. What was he, a fourth, Joe? I believe it was a fourth or a fifth. Um, Coming out, okay, this guy can fly around. To now, he's the attitude of your defense, and he knows it.
Yeah,
And you hear him talk in the interview. He's happy to be back. His teammates Malik Hooker and J. Ron Curse are happy to have him, Joe. And I think the biggest thing is he brings attitude to your team that you can't manufacture. Like the Cowboys had a lot of fake tough guys for a while. I think that Donald was a six. Thank you, Mr. 2306. I think that Donald is not a fake tough guy. I think Donald is a real tough guy who you're watching in the San Francisco game. He's coming down here and he's smoking guys. Those are the guys that you just have to have on your team, on your roster. And I think that he brings that. Okay, Joe, Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Cooks, and there's no wrong answer here, Joe. Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Cooks, Chuma Edoga, or Ronald Jones. Out of the guys who weren't on our roster last year, who are now on our roster, which one do you like the most?
I love the Brandon Cooks edition.
Woo!
You know what I mean? Because it's a big need. You had prior to prior to getting Cooks in here, it was CeeDee Lamb, the drop off, a bunch of hope and optimism. That ain't gonna cut it. That ain't
Yeah,
gonna cut it. You gotta have sure shot guys coming into the season. No more of this. Oh, cross the fingers and this and that. We now we got Lamb. We know that this guy is a number one. He proved it. He shut up all the noise. He proved it. You got Brandon Cooks in here who has the accolades. He's got the
yeah,
skins on the wall, 1,000 yard, season. This sort of, so now you feel good about that. I feel great about the Brandon Cooks edition, man. I think he's
yeah,
gonna fit great with what McCarthy's gonna do, and I'm ready to see. I'm ready to see what these guys do.
yeah. Joe, you couldn't have said any better. I think something that you just said that stuck with me was the skins on the wall. Okay, you get 1,000 yards with Tyrod Taylor. Okay, it's you. You can play.
Yeah,
Clearly, Brandon Cooks didn't want to be in the Texans. They would be in the Texans uniform. They're kind of an organization that's kind of in flux right now. Quarterback play is kind of spotty. Coaching staff is kind of all over the place. They're definitely in rebuild mode.
yeah,
Even this year, obviously going to draft a quarterback, but there's no guarantee that the quarterback that they draft hits, Joe. Brandon Cooks comes to, and then he comes and he's willing to rework his deal. That lets you know he just completely wanted out of there.
yeah,
I think that the funniest thing about Brandon Cooks, Joe, that I think that people haven't really sat with is the fact that, dude, he's 28, and like it feels like he's been in the league forever, Joe, but he's 28, and you have these people on Twitter who will say, "Well, you didn't have to let go of Amari." No, you did, because you let go of Amari Cooper so CeeDee Lamb could shine. That's what you did, and now the pecking order is set. You can't tell me that Amari Cooper being in that room, I won't say that it kind of dampened CeeDee Lamb's light, but I don't think CeeDee Lamb knew who he was as a player with Amari Cooper around. Now he knows he can work the slot. Now he knows he can play on the edge. Now he knows exactly how to beat guys, and he really came into his own as a player. CeeDee Lamb is your one. Amari Cooper is your, I mean, excuse me, Brandon Cooks is your two. That's set. What happens after that, Joe? I don't know. I would like Dallas to treat this, and we'll talk about this in the draft, like Michael Gallup isn't healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have. I think you got to treat this as though is Michael Gallup isn't healthy, Joe.
Yeah.
Uh, what are your thoughts on that?
No, no, no. That's what it is. You know for sure you got two guys that can play. They're ready to play. If you had to play a game right now, you can count on them. The other guys, Jalen Tolbert didn't do crap for us. Oh, maybe he's going to do something this year. We got to get away from the maybe crap, the hopefully crap. I want the guys who know what the hell they're doing. They're going to be there, and Dak needs that. Dak cannot play with these guys that are fumbling, bad hands, and all this other kind of crap. Uh, I love it. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks. You know, Gallup should be better in year two of the
Yeah,
recovery. You know what I mean? So if you get that, perfect. But it's not going to stop me from adding another receiver. And I don't think McCarthy's going to stop. I think he's going to bring in another guy here.
yeah. Um, Joe, I'll raise my hand on the Jalen Tolbert bandwagon. I was on it. I still think that he can develop, but I'm with you. I think Mike McCarthy is saying, listen, we're taking this, we're taking this thing by the reins now. All right, Kellen Moore, I gave you 2 years of trying to figure it out, calling reverses every other play, not having
Yeah.
rhythm in the red zone.
Yeah.
I think if you ask me, what Dallas did with having Cooks and now having CeeDee Lamb is okay. When teams are going to try to double CeeDee Lamb, we have somebody who we know can be the number two consistently. With Cooks being able to beat that number two, I still do believe that Mike McCarthy wants to run the football. And that'll be when we start transitioning into draft talk, Joe, and how free agency will affect draft talk. I still believe that Mike McCarthy does want to run the football. Now the difference is he has two receivers on the edge that can help him. Obviously, we lost Schultz. So we'll see what happens at the tight end position because I do like Hendershot and I do like um um I like Hendershot and I like Fergie, but you just don't know. You still got to see them take that jump. But again, with Pollard, is a sure thing. We'll see what happens in the draft with the running back position. But to me, this is Mike McCarthy saying we're not leaving anything to chance on the offensive side of the ball if we have we're gonna get the weapons in. Joe, just briefly touch on Stephon Gilmore and what message is that sending to somebody who we kind of said, Kelvin Joseph, we like him, but I just don't know if he's going to make it. And I think Dallas is kind of righting their wrongs with that Kelvin Joseph pick. What are your thoughts on Stephon Gilmore?
Yeah, it is, man. It's a little bit of a mission as far as like, hey, we can't count on this guy. We got to bring in somebody here to cover ourselves. Someone that knows how to be a professional. You know what I mean? Someone that has played in big games.
Yeah,
My Stephon Gilmore, Super Bowls, Patriots. That's very important, especially as we get, you know, God willing, we get into the playoffs. Gilmore's there with us in the playoffs. Leadership, all these little things they count. They count. There's little things that put you over the hump. And I like the pick of Gilmore. I know he's kind of at the back end of his career, but you know it's a solid move. A fifth rounder,
yeah,
a compensatory fifth is basically a six, basically free.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I mean that was a steal. I mean, I do like that pick, man.
You're looking at the Colts roster and you're saying maybe the Colts are just trying to free up guys. Hey, go play for a contender. Let's get picks. Let's just get people in the building because again, you're looking at a Colts roster who
Yeah.
they're going to be trying to draft a quarterback,
Mhm.
and respect to the Colts for doing the right thing by Gilmore. He's I wouldn't say he's on the back end of his career. I think he can still play good football, but it's fair to give him a shot to go play good football and not just let him just stay on the roster. I think the Colts may possibly want to win now. That's why you've heard things about them being in the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. But then You hear things about them possibly going after Anthony Richardson, Levis. That's their problem. That quarterback situation is possibly crazy. Guys, we'll get to questions. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. It means the world to me and Joe. All right, Joe, the draft. And this is why people tune in to me and you. Joe, yes, let's get those likes up. Thank you, Jim Laws. Let's get those likes up. Let's get to a, you know what, this is what we'll do. We'll get to a super chat real quick. Thank you, Brandon J. Make sure you guys keep sending super chats. Thank you, April Showers, for that super chat as well. All right, first we need a dog in the middle. Would you take Mozzie at 26? Would you trade the pick for an established DT like Grady Jarrett? I'm not trading any picks because this team drafts well, Brandon J. And with Mozzie Smith, I just don't know how much this team values D tackle early. And I would tell people be careful of D tackle early. You know, everybody wanted Jordan Davis last year, Joe. He was okay this year. I won't say that he was great. He didn't
Mm,
really change the outlook of the Eagles.
yeah.
That I mean, if he did, they wouldn't be re-signing Fletcher Cox. I mean, how many defensive tackles can you have? If he did, they wouldn't have been trying to get Dominic Sue in there. So, you know, you can get those guys in the third, fourth round to just have a play a niche role. Um, that's just me, Joe. What do you think about the D tackle position?
Yeah, D tackle is you either have to hit on a generational type of player, and then after that, there's a big gap. Everybody is just a rotational guy. You know what I mean? We have a
Yeah,
bunch of rotational guys. I mean, we're being real. We got rotational guys.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, I wouldn't take Maisie. Maybe the second. I would definitely want to take him at the first.
Oh no.
He's got the off field. When the off field stuff happened, I was like, oh, that's a Cowboys second round kind of roll the dice kind of thing. Yeah, and I wouldn't trade it for a player either. So, but man, you definitely got to upgrade that position. But at the end of the first, what kind of defensive tackle are you going to find if you draft one? You might run into another Taco Charlton situation. We definitely don't want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and as we transition to draft talk, I want you guys to understand the Cowboys may only have like 21st round grades. Trading back in this draft is a real possibility, guys. Get ready because they've covered their bases a lot of ways. Um, in free agency, Joe, and with trading and getting other players from other teams on this roster now. All right, here we go. That's right, JP. Two draft OGs. That's why you guys are here for the draft. All right, Joe. You do a good job. I think that everybody needs to subscribe to Joe Rod Cowboys blog. Joe does the best job to me of keeping up with who the Cowboys are meeting with. Um, the Pulse, Joe. Out of everybody, before we get into their draft philosophy, out of everybody the Cowboys have met with, what names kind of stick out to you? And who do you kind of like and would like to see maybe in the first, second, or third round, Joe?
Cowboys are making the rounds right now with the pro days.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So obviously they're hitting up the big ones. Ohio State, we know about that. They were at Georgia. But then you look at some of the other ones. Iowa. Okay, Iowa's interesting because they got a linebacker there that we're interested in. You got Van Ness there, interested in him. Um, yeah, then you got Quinn working them out.
yeah.
We know what happened with Sam Williams. Oh, he worked them out. They drafted him.
And he
So
played well.
and he played well. He played well. So I
He
would
played
not
well.
discount defensive end early.
Yeah.
First three rounds. I mean, maybe Van Ness would be there. That might be a guy that the Cowboys would look at 26. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Cowboys, they were at the Minnesota Pro Day.
Yeah.
Very interested in John Michael Schmitz. That's the
Yes.
name to keep an eye on there. If you want to look at some depth, or I mean, I know we got the free agent there to fill the spot, but that doesn't stop us from adding an upper level Big Ten grinder, and that's what he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're going to be the team that running and setting the tone, that's a guy that you can plug in at left guard.
Yeah. Ooh, Joe coming with the heat, guys. I think that Schmitz when I actually watched his game last. I watched last night. I went back and said, let me go watch this Michigan State game. And I mean, and you see him outside zone, Joe, getting in that outside shoulder. He's moving around. He's pulling that center, and then what you were able to see him do at the Senior Bowl, which is outstanding. I mean, he
Yeah,
literally he looked like one of the best interior linemen at the Senior Bowl. We know that Dallas loves players that play well at the Senior Bowl. Hey, they even like players that don't play well at the Senior Bowl. I mean, Terrence still didn't really play that great at the Senior Bowl, and he was drafted, developed, and now he's one of our better players. Joe, you're at pick 26, and you've just now ripped off a few names that are interesting. Jack Campbell being one of them.
hmm
Um, I don't know if people understand this, but if you get wiped out, and let's say you trade back and the team gives you like another third, and you trade back into the beginning of the second round, and Jack Campbell is staring at you, and you get a third round pick for him. People don't know this, but Jack Campbell would solidify the middle of your defense. Um, he's a name that people, you know, he's went kind of underrated, but this guy can really play, Joe. He can. What are your thoughts on Campbell?
I'm a big fan of Jack Campbell.
Yeah.
Um,
The three
very
cone split at the combine was really good.
That's I was about to say that his combine numbers are what you want. He hit all the marks on. Hey, this guy can move. You know what I mean? And this guy is going to be a sideline to sideline kind of guys. You know, you hear that all the time, but this guy really would be that. You know what I mean? It'd be competition. You know what I mean? I'm not going to automatically give Damone Clark a starting role here. I mean, he should, right? But you know,
I,
you
I got
got to
a I got an interesting thought about him, Joe. Once you
yeah,
finish
you
yours,
got to protect yourself there. We all like Jabril Cox, but I think that was another kind of Michael Gallup type of situation where year two of the recovery is where you're going to see the improvement. But it's an optimistic thing. We need for sure, you know, for sure, guys that can come in here and then get going.
well, the truth is, you need production. I mean, you need competition.
Yeah,
Think about when I look at Campbell, Damone, and Jabril. Right now, I would dare to say that Jack Campbell is better than all three of those players. The problem with Damone Clark is this: it was good at times, but I just didn't grade his film. I really saw him. He was kind of slow to key a lot. Um, and he was out there. And another thing is the size kind of really scared me at times, Joe, because there has been a trend of teams actually trying to run the ball again. And that'll be one of the trends that you start to see. But if you look at Philly, everything was through their run game. That O line, you got Kelsey climbing next level. Well, hey, if he's on a guy like Damone Clark and he's a baby out there, dude, it's that's a problem. Another guy is Drew Sanders. A guy that I think that he for sure will be there at 26. If you're wiped out
yeah,
of the running backs, and I know that everybody wants a running back, and we're going to talk about that,
yeah.
but if you're wiped out and you just want to make this defense elite, you bring in a guy like Drew Sanders, who Drew Sanders' story is really interesting. He's at Alabama, Joe. He's buried behind Will Anderson on the edge. He transfers to Arkansas. They put him in the middle of that defense, and he goes crazy. Um, that's the part where you're like, okay, this guy does have position flex. So it'll be interesting, Joe, because and we'll talk about receiver here in a second, but linebacker is a position that the Cowboys have drafted pretty well. Obviously the
Yeah.
Jalen Smith was, yeah, but I just don't think that it's a position that's not getting a lot of run here, Joe, and I think it should.
No, it should. It definitely should. You know what I mean? Because where's the depth right now? Gifford's gone. I
That's a
mean,
great point.
he was okay. Now we do have the other kid that we drafted. I thought he was coming along pretty good.
You're talking about he
From
drafted him late last year.
yeah, late last Texas Tech kid, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull his name up in a
Special
second.
teams ace, but he's a guy that I think is going to fill in for Gifford's departure. But still needs to add some more bodies in here. Van Der Esch obviously is on a short term deal.
Harper, yeah, Harper.
Harper, there you go. Thanks, C. Burleson. Um, but yeah, man, I would like it. If you can get better at some position, do it. I mean, that's what this whole
Could do that.
BPA thing is all about. the Cowboys have set themselves up here with free agency to do this, right? So,
Right.
yeah, let's go.
I think the problem too with Jabril Cox is he's just light. Like, he's just small. And I think that's a real issue, Joe. Like,
Is he
that
a
was
safety?
here we go.
Here we go. Remember that? Remember that trend? Let's make him
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah, remember, and then how did that work out with Byron Jones? This is what I try to explain to people. Like, listen, like you have, what did we just say about Donovan Wilson? Like, you're not just, you can't just throw somebody back there. Like, you have to know how to actually play that position. What's up, JC Cowboys Network? Hey, Jasmine, how Brian, everybody. Shout out to all of you guys for typing in. Yeah, you can't just throw somebody back there. We tried to do that with Byron. He didn't want to tackle. He wasn't physical. He's a corner.
Yeah,
You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah.
Donovan Wilson is physical. He wants to hit you. It's a difference. So, to me, it, that part will be interesting. I just think Jabril Cox is just light. He's just small, man. It was the same thing. Um, Philly drafted what's our guy's name, Joe, who was at Georgia last year?
Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe Dean. And everybody was wondering, why is Nakobe Dean falling? What's going on? He didn't work out. And I'll never forget this. I watched him at the combine. I'm looking at him standing next to linemen. I'm looking at him standing next to linebackers. And I'm like, dog, he's small, bro. Like, he's little. That matters in the NFL. Like, Tyler Smith is going to get his hands on you and power drive you. It's a difference. You can't play in the box consistently. You get what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
Like, he's small, Joe.
Yeah.
You can do that at Georgia when you got all 5 stars around you. In the league, everything evens out. You get what I'm saying?
It's the frame, right? Because you look at a player like
What's up, Justin, dude?
you look at a kid like the Kansas City guy that we liked, right? What was his name? A little bit small, but built big, bro. You know what I'm talking about? What was his name?
He went to Missouri.
Yeah.
He had a good Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But no, yeah.
It's about that frame. How does he hold that muscle? You know what I mean? And like what you said, Dean and Jabril, they're a little slender. You know?
Yeah. I think, to me, Nick Bolton. I'll never forget covering him. The difference between Nick Bolton and Nakobe Dean was, I'll never forget watching Nick Bolton. You're talking about sideline to sideline. And the other thing about Nick Bolton was, I'll never forget watching him and just watching how bad Missouri was and how good he was.
Well, he was so good. I love watching him play, man.
Well, he made every tackle.
Yeah.
And he's flying around. And so, anyway, Joe, let's get to the elephant in the room, running back. So I went on Twitter today, and I know Bijan is the hot name. There's no way he's going to get to 26, guys. I hate to break the news to you. A team will draft him just because the Cowboys like him. Teams have done that for a while. Just because he's tied to the Cowboys. No, Nick Bolton isn't on there. Jim Laws, he's not on the Broncos. He's going to be with Kansas City for a long time. A team will draft Bijan Robinson because he's on the Cowboys, and that's okay. I want people to understand that part of it. However, there are 2 names, and I went over Scott the other day. There are 2 names that I really do like, Joe, and that I think, dare I say, could possibly be just as good as Bijan or better, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs and that's Tajay Spears. Gibbs, to me, checks off 2 boxes for you. The receiving threat in his game is outstanding. Like, it's crazy.
No.
And then Spears, the center of gravity. Gibbs, the receiving threat is crazy, and he's just an amazing runner as well. So he really just does have a lot of that Alvin Kamara in his game. And then obviously with Spears, built a certain way, about 205, thick. Some of these backs that people want, they're just little. And that's not going to bode well in Dallas, because Dallas has a size metric that you have to meet.
Yeah.
Joe, what are the chances of us drafting a running back, and who do you like? I know Charbonnet is another name that people want. I like Charbonnet. I think he can run a little bit better, run behind his pass a little bit more. What is a name that you like, Joe, at running back?
I have Gibbs as running back one, Bijan two, only
Okay.
because level competition and just
SEC.
it's a difference, man. So I love Bijan, but I don't think he's gonna be there. He's a really good talent. You know what I mean? This is like are you getting Ricky Williams or are you getting Cedric Benson? If you're getting Ricky Williams, this guy's going in the teens, maybe higher.
Mhm.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
If they think maybe he's Cedric Benson, he will be there at 26. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I think he's more on the Ricky Williams side. This guy can catch, can run the ball, great vision. Um, he's well built. You know what I mean? But Jameer Gibbs, I think, is also, you know, I think he's going to hit the ground running, pro ready, as we know. These running backs out of Alabama always just come on here, hit the ground running.
Yeah.
They impact the game. They have, I mean, there's been a few misses here and there, but I mean, if you think about like a, you know, Jacobs here recently, I mean, Derrick Henry. I mean, they have more hits than they do misses from Alabama. So Jameer Gibbs for me, I like the breakaway speed, the home run ability. Um, I wouldn't mind getting him there. I wouldn't mind getting him there, Foots. But I think you know, if they don't, to me, if they don't go running back here at 26, this is going to be where they're going to go sixth and seventh round and just
Yeah.
throw a guy out there, kind of like they
Yeah.
did back when we drafted the Ohio State running back. You know, just we're going to draft this guy and just put him in the
Yeah.
mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we don't go early running back, it's going to be way the hell later.
Yeah. Zach Evans is another guy. Devin White. I mean, excuse me, Devin A. Chain, Tajay Spears, and then Jameer Gibbs. Joe is so spot on with because they cover themselves with Ronald Jones. So I'm not. That doesn't move me. I would definitely draft a running back. Ronald Jones doesn't move me. He's more like of a camp body. More like of a competition guy. Just the dude just asked a really good question, and I want to answer this before we get to some other questions. Thank you, April. Yes, let's get to 30K. Thank you guys so much. Out of Gibbs and Spears, which more is like Pollard? Because they both resemble him. So out of Gibbs and Spears, I and I said this on Sky Show, and I'm not gonna walk this back. If you put Gibbs on this team, you may, and even Bijan, you may not start Pollard. Um, Pollard has juice, but Gibbs has incredible juice. Like I just don't know if people understand. And Joe hit on something. When you're watching college football, there's SEC football and everything else. Now you can throw in Ohio State because they have so many 5 stars, but like I hate to tell you, like Michigan State can't compete with Florida. The speed, the aggression, that SEC football, that SEC way, like it's a gauntlet. Like
Yeah,
Georgia playing LSU, it's not going to be a 40-point game. LSU, and they're not, maybe not me, they may not be ranked super high, but like LSU has dudes. So that's going to be a dogfight. Obviously, Georgia and Bama is going to be a dogfight, but that SEC rigor is just a different style of football. Even on a youth football level, I coach youth football. When we go to Georgia, those kids are just different. When we go to Florida, those kids are just different. Like it's real.
yeah,
So Texas, it's just different. So Texas A&M, but anyway,
yeah,
when you talk about Gibbs, Joe, and Joe has Gibbs is his running back one. Obviously, Bijan has the fanfare. When you talk about Gibbs, he's just gonna do things that other running backs just can't do. He can run every route in the route tree. Um, he can run slant, Texas post, but he can also run the ball between the tackles, and that's the thing that I watched. I mean, he led Alabama in receiving and rushing. Joe, enough
yeah,
said.
yeah. And that's the thing about it is too that we got to remember that Pollard is on a franchise tag. That's a 1 year deal.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So where they ultimately want to pay him, you know what I mean? Are they going to break the bank again for a running back? I just don't see them going down that rabbit hole again. So maybe they do, man. If one of those guys are there, it very well could be a running back. But I feel like if they don't, it's going to be later.
Yeah,
And man, fans are gonna be pissed off. Like, where's the running back?
yeah,
Where's the hell? When are we drafting the running back?
yeah. But
Dallas does it to us all the time. It never
yeah,
goes the way the fans think, man.
and people have to realize, some of these guys that people want running back wise, they'll be there in the fifth. They'll be
Yeah,
there late, like Joe said. I mean, some of these guys, Sean Tucker, and I like Sean Tucker, Keegan Mitchell, but they're just small guys. They're small, and they'll be hanging around in the fifth. I don't even think the A chain goes in the second or third. He may go in the third, but he's so small. You can't run him every down. People have to remember
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Like in the league, you're not playing against, some guy that's going to be a doctor. You're playing against Bobby Wagner. A chain gets hit by Wagner, he may get out, he may he may lead a game. You're playing against Leighton Vander Esch. Leighton Vander Esch catches you the right way. That's 260, 250. You know what I mean? You playing
yeah,
against Micah Parsons. This is 4-4. Micah's going to put on more bulk, I'm sure. It's different. Like being 195, running between the tackles is different. And everybody's good. So again, some of these running backs that people want, it'll be interesting to see. So Joe, if it's Foots, I'm targeting 3 positions in the first round. Guard, depending on what happens with Gibbs, running back, or receiver. I'm not going to talk about the tight end position because I think that we have 2 guys that can get the job done. And there's never been a first round tight end that just comes in and changes life. Like, I mean, the kid
yeah,
in Atlanta, I can't even think of his name anymore. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't moved the needle for Atlanta. But I do
yeah,
know that if you could fix this O line and make it special, because yes, we did have a free agency pickup on the offensive line, but it's not one of these. It's not with Chuma. It's not one of these guys to where it's like, oh, he moves the needle that much, Joe. To you, Joe, what are the positions that you're targeting at 26 based on what we've just done in free agency?
I'm looking at guard.
Yeah,
I'm looking at wide receiver,
yeah.
and I'm looking at you know you know
DN move you,
man,
Joe.
yeah, I think DN might be something you may want to look at. So
Yeah.
uh, also got to remember cornerback. So honestly, it's going to be for me.
DB is yeah.
It's going to be guard, wide receiver, cornerback for me.
Okay, that's a good one,
Be
Joe.
real.
So let's talk about corner, Joe. That's a really thoughtful one because I think this DB class, and this is what people are going to see why the running back stretch a little bit. I think that DB and guard and interior lineman and even tackle is really top heavy this year, right, Joe? Meaning, if you want a dude, you
Mm-hmm.
better get him early, right,
Sure.
Joe?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
We're talking
know,
about that. We were talking about that last night.
were you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I think after the third, this draft class after the third, it dries up very
Oh,
very
yeah, that's right.
quickly.
Me and you were texting about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. It's definitely probably my least favorite over the last man since you and I've been doing this.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, that's not a knock. It's just it's what it is. It's just. But we have the scouting department to navigate that type of deal. So I'm confident that we're going to find guys. Maybe we'll hit on a diamond in the rough in a later round, but we definitely got to hit on these first 3 picks.
The first 3 picks have to be instant contributors, and I think that this
Yeah.
first round, okay, this front office can do that. So Joe, Cam Smith, Joey Porter, Devin Witherspoon, Keely Ringo, and Emmanuel Forbes, right? And
Mhm.
Forbes is small, but he's one of those guys that I will give a pass because on film he just plays that well. Joe, out of those names, who do you see falling? And then obviously, excuse me, we got our guy from Oregon as well. Um, uh, who do you see falling, Joe, out of those names? Just, and it doesn't have to be a
Mm.
stamp. Just because
Yeah.
I'll go first, Joe. So to me, Devon Witherspoon didn't work out at the combine, right? He's also a smaller corner. I think that Joey Porter knocked the combine um, to smithereens. I think that the Oregon
Yeah,
corner is going to go first.
yeah.
Um, so now it's between Cam Smith, Ringo has a fanfare, played in the SEC. Now he did struggle against he did struggle. Gonzalez, excuse me, Christian Gonzalez is going to go first. You know, Ringo did struggle against Marvin Harrison.
Mhm.
So to you, Joe, to me, Devon Witherspoon could fall.
Yeah, there's always the one guy
Yeah,
who could fall. Yeah, he could be one. I think Forbes will probably honestly. I think he'll be there. I
be
mean,
the
he'll
name.
probably. Yeah, I think that's a guy that might be there. Cam
175 pounds is just
Smith
little.
is another name that'll probably be there. 26. I mean, there's going to be if they want a cornerback, and depending on where they have these guys on their board, there's probably going to be one there that they like. You know what I mean? But as far as like how are they going to have the other position groups, you know, on their board?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I've been praying that Nolan Smith falls. That's a DN that I wouldn't mind taking. But he knocked the combine out the park, so I just don't know
He
about
won't.
that. But
I don't think he'll be there.
yeah, yeah, he
He
won't.
won't be there.
I will say this though. I will say this. Dan Quinn working out Will McDonald, Joe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Interesting name. Iowa State defensive end. Um,
Yeah,
Really interesting. His film is really good.
yeah. It's a name
Um,
to keep an eye on for sure.
that's a name to keep an eye on because Big Ten athlete, but the movement looks good,
Mm-hmm.
Joe.
It's there. It's there. It's this guy can come in and contribute, and that's what we're looking for its first 3 rounds. Contribute, and let's get rock and rolling, baby.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. I'm gonna give you one more question, and then we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna put a bow on this because I'm sure me and Joe, we'll try to talk 2 more times before the draft. Maybe 3 more. Um, me and Joe used to do these every week, and I know we'll recap every pick. So you guys who have been with us, it's amazing just to see both of our channels grow, and we thank you guys so much. All right, Joe, receiver. Obviously, you brought in Cooks again, 1 year deal. Chat box, you guys give me the first round receiver that you want. Joe, give me the first round receiver that you want, and then give me the first round receiver that you think is realistic, and I'll give you mine.
Man, I said this early in the draft process on Twitter. I only have one first round grade on a receiver, and that's Jigba. So
Yeah,
uh, the other guys, I don't really care for them, man. To be honest, I
yeah,
know people have their favorites, they have their biases. Just the guy's going to be an impact player. He's going to be another Chris Olave. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So we saw what Chris Olave did last season. Impact, 1,000 yards. That's what you need. That's what I want. So he's my guy. The other guys, I don't know, man. But we'll probably look at somebody in another round, somebody with a little bit more size, I think, because we already have Brandon Cooks here. I think that hits the check mark for the smaller guy. I don't know if they're going to add more smaller guys in here. They're probably going to look at more of your 6'1" and above type of guys. You know.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, chat box. To me, Joe, first round, and you even see, I mean, Chris Olave. You look at what Garrett Wilson did. You look at what Michael
Hmm.
Thomas has done.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, man. I mean,
Wide
you look at
receiver,
even,
you.
yeah, dude. You look what Scary Terry has done. What
Hmm.
Brian Hartline does with those receivers,
There you go.
it's incredible. And the proof is in the pudding. These guys come in and they're ready to go. Jackson Smith and Jigba, me and you, Joe, have been on him early. He's not a fast guy. It doesn't matter. But to me, Joe, somebody who has grown on me now, I like Tank, but he's slow. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. You can't run 4.5 or 4.56, whatever the number was, and be that slow. Same with Josh Downs. You know, Charlie Jones, I went on a rant for him, but I'm not taking him in the first round, obviously. But I really like what Charlie Jones has done. And I would be elated if Dallas got him maybe in the third round. But to me, somebody who has grown on me, Joe, and that's a smaller in stature guy, is Zay Flowers. Everybody give me a Z for Zay. I would not be mad, Joe, if in a trade back situation they targeted Zay Flowers or they drafted him at 26 if they're wiped out, because I think that Zay Flowers has star potential. The fact of the matter is that Joe, his route running is special. The level of competition wasn't great, but he did dominate the level of competition. Then he comes to the combine and he looks better than everybody um, at the combine outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Quentin Johnston, absolutely not. The feet look crazy. The drops scare me.
Right. Yeah.
But Zay Flowers is a name that I really really like, Joe. And because I'm with you, me and you, them baby receivers with the great highlights. You got to be careful because in the league again, the problem is Tank is going to be going up against somebody that's going to put their hands on him.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's a scratch off ticket, man, and I don't know if I want to use that on the first round, a scratch off on the first round, because a lot of them don't translate.
Yeah,
Not everybody's going to be a Tyreek Hill.
yeah,
Most people aren't Tyreek Hill. Those little guys that are impactful like that. They're rare. Man. John Ross. Oh, he blew up the combine record and this and that. Didn't do shit.
yeah. And that's kind of what scares me about Jalen Hyde, who I was on really high early, but then I watched some of the route running at the combine, and I'm not in the offense that he was in, and I actually dare I say like Cedric Tillman a little bit better than Hyde. I think he's stronger at the point. I think that he, the game that he had 2 years ago against Georgia was outstanding. I think that Hyde can play. The problem is I don't see the route running ability of a Flowers, and I didn't see him used in that way like Flowers did. And to just come in and run 9, I would like him to be a little bit bigger, i.e. Christian Watson, who, of course, had his coming out party against Dallas. If he could do that, cool. But I just, to me, if I'm getting a guy, he needs to be able to play all 3 receiver positions. I don't think that Hyde can do that day one. I think that Flowers can. And I think that Jackson Smith and Jigba can too, but he would come in and play the slot. Now, what we got to remember is this. Now that you brought in Cooks, CD is going to play in the slot, guys. Like, he did most of his work in the slot. He can play on the edge, but he's going to play in the slot even more because Cooks can consistently win on the edge. So you need a guy who can also play on the edge to complement that, and then you start thinking about moving on possibly from Michael Gallup.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it too is I'm with you on that, Foots too. I think you have 2 Swiss Army knives on the field now
Yeah.
because Cooks and Lamb, they're just so interchangeable. We're gonna have, and Mike McCarthy. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have that cooking really good right now, man. Just look, giving the defense all sorts of looks. Cooks on the outside, on the inside, Lamb on the outside, on the inside. It should be a beautiful thing here. I'm confident in that. If we were to have Kellen Moore here, he wouldn't be able to utilize that talent. The guy didn't know what the hell he was doing.
No, I completely agree. And I think that, that's another move, Joe, that we could say. I mean, I'll say this. I love Mike McCarthy taking the reins for himself and
Yeah.
saying, if the ship's going down, I'm going to run it. Nobody else. And I just don't think that Kellen Moore knows enough. I've always said that, hey, Kellen, I love you. You played at Boise State, but what did he do to deserve the OC position for the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah.
Like, that's a high rank. And just because you played at Boise State and you guys ran a triple ladder or whatever, what has he done? Can he coach every position? So anyway, Joe, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for joining. Chat box, can we give a clap for Joe in the chat? Just one of my great friends. Um, I'll say this, Joe. Let's answer a few. Like, let's answer one question each for the fans who stayed on with us. So I'll take a question, and then somebody said Joe is brutal. I love it. Yeah, Joe don't. This isn't. You guys aren't gonna get fairy tales and candy with me and Joe. Y'all understand that
Right.
we're not. And then another thing is this. I want to say this real quick. It bothers me and it's hilarious how so many of these people, so many of these voices, so many of these Twitter, blah, 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 has so much to say about the front office instead of just being patient. Mind you, this team was not bad last year. This team had everything they needed. I think that coaching and personnel need to be better. It wasn't on the front office. You had what you needed. Drafted well, put pieces in place, and they went out and even done better this offseason. Y'all got to stop that stuff with the front office and just let things play out. All right, chat box, give us a question. Me and Joel answer it, then we'll get out of here. Somebody said, how much bread do we have? Shoot us questions, guys. Let's go back up. Maybe we can find a question. A good question. Boop, 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 boop. All right, guys. Seeing as to how we have none, I think that we'll go ahead and we got some, but I gotta go back to I gotta refresh up, Joe. You see anything that you like, Joe?
Well, it's not really a question, but more of a comment. Mr. 2306, you were a TP injury away from making the NFC Championship. It's true. We were shutting down the run.
Yeah.
We were shutting down Debo and all this. Oh, they're gonna run and do all this kind of shit. We were in that game until TP went down. We didn't have an answer. We didn't have the other guy there. It wasn't Zeke. That's
Yeah.
why he's no longer here. But that, and I think that's what they could be setting themselves up. Could be setting themselves up for. It could very well damn be a running back.
Yeah.
It could be Gibbs, because what if it happens again? What if Pollard is not ready? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
They're going to bring him along, but he's going to be there for game one. It seems like game one will always have a key guy out. Tyron Smith, Lyle, somebody like who, you know what I mean? We got to be ready. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think with what they've done in free agency, they can put some more pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to Brandon J. What round would you take Charlie Jones? And then I'll answer one more. I like Brandon. I like Charlie Jones. I would take him in the third round, and he may go in the second. He's really good. He killed the combine, and the film makes sense. Brandon J. He's really good. Go watch the Penn State game. He annihilated Penn State. And Joey Porter was on that film, and he did him dirty. And then one more question: Will McDonald? Yes to Will McDonald, and I'll give you guys a bonus. How do you feel about DeMarvin Overshown? I like him. Second or third round grade on Overshown for me. Joe, have you watched Overshown? Thoughts on him? Texas linebacker.
Yeah. I kind of struggle with it. Is he another Joseph Asai, or is he better? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Good name.
you know, mm, they like him. I know they met with him.
Yeah.
So but they met with Joseph Asai as well. So
We'll see.
we'll see.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for coming on. We're just underneath the hour, guys. You guys play this back, send it around to your friends. It's your boy Foots. We just killed this draft talk, free agency talk. Dang, Joe, we were able to get in both. Like, that's crazy. Not many people could do that.
Only you and I, baby.
You and I. Peace, y'all. Have a great one.